In the field of fashion, football, cars and food, Italy holds a rank of pride and is recognized across the globe for the same. But if we touch another argument, which is politics, things are different and the opinion of the country changes, becoming an extreme severe. The country's reputation, in fact, drops down when people hear the name of the Prime Minister, Silvio Berlusconi, and the comments are not very rewarding. What we did was have people talk about him and see how they feel. Here is what they said.
I think Italy's very corrupt under Berlusconi because Berlusconi comes across as just incompetent and doesn't really seem to understand anything.
I think that he's a politician that is a bit propagandist in the way he is doing his politics, because he owns the media and he can project whatever he wants the people to see, to know.
Italy is a lovely country when it comes to its culture, but Berlusconi, in my opinion, is a corrupt politician.
I think with regards to Berlusconi, yeah, there's a bit of a bad image that he's a bit, obviously like he's sleazy, he's been with all of these women. For someone to be Prime Minister and have control over the media, it does sound very propaganda-wise. It doesn't sound very democratic as Italy is supposed to be.
Corrupt, very corrupt.
No one likes him because he's corruption, because he's sexual addiction.
I think Italian politics is mostly corrupt and very arranged, and that the Italians don't have much of a say in their country.
Is Italy really like this? Is this how the Italian Prime Minister really is? In a few moments, we will get an actual insight of the situation in Italy. Speaking with us are correspondent, sociologists, economists, and other personalities that give us a real and exact picture of what is the Italian peninsula today and what it can become tomorrow. Italy, unified in 1861, celebrated this year its 150th anniversary. Many celebrations have been made across the country. The message on this occasion from the President of the Republic, Giorgio Napolitano, was centered on the importance and value of the Constitution. Yet, controversies were still arising. The Northern League, in fact, a xenophobic party at the government, was against the celebration, and never stopped hoping for a partition between North and South of Italy. In addition, the Italian Prime Minister, Silvio Berlusconi, is now facing a hard time after the last defeat at the regional election and referenda, and is also involved in a number of scandals. But what is shocking is that he manages to have a reach and influence almost everything in Italy. Within the country, he still holds power, from politics to media, economy to sports. He controls it all. Some of the left-wing parties have even labeled him to be a dictator. Outside Italy, a lot of television shows do not use soft words in his favor, making ironic and at times even vulgar comments about his scandals. This is Russell Howard's Good News on BBC.
Silvio Berlusconi is back. He had sex in a jacuzzi with 25 women. 25 women! He's 74 years old! How is a pensioner shagging 25 women, especially one who looks like Morph's granddad? It doesn't end there. Let's be honest, it couldn't be a Berlusconi story without him saying something outrageous.
If I occasionally happen to look a beautiful girl in the face, it's better to like beautiful girls than to be gay.
What a dickhead!
Even the Australian news correspondent seems embarrassed and tries to turn it up into a joke when it comes to Silvio Berlusconi's scandals.
Bunga Bunga Party. Tell me more, Pedro. Get to the bottom of that one.
Do you know what a Bunga Bunga Party is, Carlos?
Talk to me, bro.
Well, there's a few meanings. One is that it's
Don't worry about
a
it.
naked party involving a lot of activity. The second, it's a Gaddafi term as well, maybe.
Get yourself to the Vatican. Thank you, mate.
It's just over here, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Not too far away. That's why I've got to be careful with what I'm saying.
Exactly.
I might get struck by lightning.
Yeah, exactly. Very easy, mate. When in Rome. Talk to you soon, bro. Bunga Bunga Party. Hallelujah.
However, the situation in Italy is different. Most television shows never fail to praise him or cover up his doings. In fact, he controls 90% of the terrestrial channels. If a television show carries negative news about him, it is possible that it shuts down, like the one of Enzo Biagi, a well-known journalist who hosted a show in 2002. This is what eventually happened.
Signor Presidente Berlusconi, dia a disposizione di procedere perché...
President Berlusconi, I have no problem to accept your decision because my age and respect that I have for myself don't allow me to accept your desires. I am sure that in our republic there is still space for the freedom of the press, and in right there are still people that want to express their opinion, because this is the principle of democracy. It's written, you can read it in the Constitution. I work here since 1961, and I am fond of this company. And it's the first time that a Prime Minister decides the schedule of the shows and asks that two journalists should enter in the category of the jobless. This could be the last episode of the show, but it's better to be fired after having said the truth than staying with this situation.
Another example is Michele Santoro, a journalist who hosts Anno Zero, a talk show on current affairs at RAI. After years of service, the journalist decided to quit, and this is why.
Io sono un giornalista della RAI. Dunque,
I am a journalist of RAI, so I am part of RAI. But the problem is, the board of directors of RAI is part of RAI. The fact is that you have a vision of life where there are only the rich and the poor, and the rich have to do the charity to the poor. Instead, on my vision of life, there is the dignity of work that comes before all the rest, which is the condition for the freedom. So I would like to say that when you attack someone like me, you attack even the people that would like to have a dream. You are, somehow, taking that dream away from everyone. But if going away from RAI is useful to avoid all the problems that make great the public service, I won't have any problem leaving.
There is almost a 10 years gap between the two last clips. Yet, things haven't changed. Instead, it only seems to be getting worse. What happened and what is still happening is not normal for a democratic country. Leopoldo Nuti, an academic professor of History of International Relations, is in the opinion that there is too much politics on the Italian television.
It's not normal in a democracy that you have as much politics as you have in Italy on TV every night. I mean, I've lived in the United States for several years, and the only times that I remember seeing all these talk shows one after the other was at election times. We seem to live in a perennial election campaign, and I think, I'm not criticizing these programs, but I do think there is an abuse from all sides of the media and of TV in particular to talk about politics. And maybe the Italians are also a little bit fed up with this orgy of political debates on TV.
Another opinion comes from the journalist of The Guardian and The Economist, John Hooper, who thinks that in Italy things should change, illustrating the example of Spain.
No, it's absolutely, totally abnormal within a democracy that should be happening. And I would refer you not to a case like Britain. Frequently people in Italy talk about Britain, mother of democracies, etc., etc. But that is a more mature country and a more mature democracy. The example I would give you is of Spain, where for many years RTVE was very similar to the RAI. It was controlled in such a way that the government of the day was always favoured by the news and the current affairs programmes on RTVE. That is no longer the case. After the socialists came in, a radical reform was introduced whereby the news and current affairs reporters in RTVE, Televisione Española, were freed up to act in much the same way as BBC reporters do, because it was just felt that Spain had outgrown that old style of doing things. Italy still has not. It's got to catch up.
Silvio Berlusconi controls a football team, AC Milan, a newspaper, Il Giornale, and influences many other aspects of society. His control over media is one of the main criticisms. He is involved in several different diatribes, and his conflict of interest surrounds him. But Tom Kington, the correspondent in Rome for The Observer, thinks that in Italy the conflict of interest is the only way to do business.
In Italy, I think that there's a very different concept of what a conflict of interest is, insofar as many business people in this country, I think, would always prefer to have a conflict of interest when they do anything, from the simplest business transaction to some huge contract. It's as if business people in Italy would say, I'm not going to get into that affair, that business opportunity, because I have no conflict of interest. Because a conflict of interest for most Italians is the only way to do business, because it's the only way that you can guarantee some kind of toehold, some kind of advantage, some kind of way of getting on this on an even footing with your adversaries in the business environment. So I think that that's why Italians tend to just look straight through Berlusconi's conflict of interest, whereas outside Italy, people say, hang on a minute, there's something not right here.
And this changed the image of Italians, going back to the classic stereotypes. The sociologist Francesco Antonelli agrees with this opinion.
Gli scandali politici degli ultimi tempi hanno
The
rafforzato
political scandal of the last period have strengthened the classical Italian stereotype, which is everywhere around the world. The classical Italian stereotype is the one of Don Juan, or the person that to achieve his aim doesn't follow any rule. I think that the Italian Prime Minister, Silvio Berlusconi, represents the real stereotypes of an Italian. So the man that doesn't think at serious things, but thinks only at having fun, have women, and try to fool all the laws. I also think that all these scandals had a bad impact on the Italian society, because all the positive elements that we have suddenly disappear, and the classical stereotype, represented by Berlusconi once again, reminded to the world that the Italian is the one eating spaghetti, playing mandolin, and with beautiful women around him. And this is not a good thing for our country.
So the image of Italians changed as well as the one of the country. Tom Kington again.
It's interesting to think that that is quite a recent phenomenon. I mean, I've travelled abroad with my wife, who is Italian, and it's interesting to see how people refer to Italy when they understand she's Italian. You know, people talk to me, they find out I'm British, and they'll talk about the royal family and perhaps football. In the case of my wife, when people understand she's Italian, 10 years ago they would talk about food and about fast cars. Now, people will most likely say, Silvio Berlusconi, incredible. So this gives you an idea of how perceptions a long way away from Italy have changed now.